is not a love triangle anymore. This is war. This is emotional carnage. And Ted may have just lit the match that burns everything down. I'm telling you right now, everything just changed. Because what looked like a sweet anniversary surprise, what looked like nostalgia, what looked like two children trying to help their parents relive something beautiful. No, that may have been the beginning of a full-scale emotional collapse. And I need to talk about this because I am shook. This soap keeps doing what soaps do best. Just when you think people are moving toward peace, it throws betrayal, confusion, and romantic warfare right back into the fire. And right now, Ted is standing in the center of the battlefield. Ted versus Shanice. Ted versus Nicole. Nicole versus her own heart. Carlton versus Kiao. This is not romance anymore. This is combat. And I have so many thoughts. Because first of all, Ted reconsidering his relationship with Nicole. Excuse me? What are we doing? After everything that happened, after betrayal tore that marriage apart, after Shanice opened her heart and risked loving a man with unresolved emotional wreckage, now Ted is looking backward? That is dangerous. That is brutal. That is chaos. And I keep asking myself, what is Shanice supposed to be in all this? A rebound? A bridge? A substitute while Ted sorts out his nostalgia? No, absolutely not. And this is where things get explosive. Because Martin and Kat may have meant well. I believe they did. They wanted to recreate a memory, a beautiful wedding anniversary moment, a moment their parents once shared, something healing, something sacred. But what they may have accidentally created was temptation. And that changes everything. Because can you imagine Shanice walking in and seeing Ted and Nicole in some intimate, emotional, almost romantic moment? Can you imagine that gut punch? That silence before heartbreak erupts? I can practically see it. The hesitation, the awkwardness, that frozen look in Shanice's eyes. That moment where she realizes the fear she's been carrying may be real. And that is devastating. Because Shanice has questioned this before, more than once. She has paused. She has wondered whether Ted is really moving forward with her or whether he's dragging his past into their future. And Monica saw this coming. Monica has been waving red flags, asking the question nobody wanted to face. Is Ted turning Shanice into a replacement for Nicole? That question is lethal because once that doubt enters a relationship, it poisons everything. Every touch feels uncertain. Every promise sounds hollow. Every explanation feels suspicious. And don't even get me started on Ted trying to explain himself again. Because honestly, I'm tired of Ted's explanations. I don't want speeches. I want decisions. I want action. I want him to choose. Because this man keeps living in emotional limbo while the women around him bleed. And I am not letting Ted off the hook. Not for 1 second. Ted versus himself. This might be the biggest battle of all. Because Ted is fighting his own unresolved feelings. And that is making casualties out of everyone else. He still hasn't been honest. Not with Shanice. Not with Nicole. Maybe not even with himself. And that terrifies me. Because when a man doesn't know where his heart belongs, everyone gets hurt. This is where things become savage. Because let's talk about Nicole. Oh, Nicole, what is happening? Because I honestly don't know whether she is healing, spiraling, rediscovering herself, or setting herself up for disaster. Ever since Ted's betrayal, Nicole has transformed. And I mean transformed. Almost like heartbreak detonated something inside her. She's freer, wilder, riskier, but also more unstable emotionally. And now we have Carlton and Kiai. Two men, two directions. Two versions of temptation, and I can't look away. Carlton versus Kiao. This is a war nobody is talking about enough because Carlton remembers Nicole in this almost sacred way. He misses her deeply. That line about missing Nicole extraordinarily, that hit me. That was not casual. That was aching. That was longing. That was a man still emotionally on fire. And yet, Kiao walks in like chaos wearing confidence. And suddenly the balance shifts Again, Nicole is being pulled in two directions while maybe still emotionally tied to Ted. Do you realize how explosive that is? That's not a love square. That's a minefield. And I'm sorry, but I think Nicole may be playing with emotional fire. Yes, I understand her wanting freedom. I understand exploring who she is after divorce. I do. But there is a difference between liberation and self-destruction. And I fear Nicole may be drifting toward the second, because choosing between multiple men while secretly wrestling unresolved feelings for your ex, that is how people break themselves. I think she's going to regret this. I really do. Because eventually, all this emotional wandering circles back to one brutal question. Who actually owns your heart? And I'm not convinced Nicole knows. That scares me. Because if Ted starts drifting back toward Nicole while Nicole is tangled with Carlton and Kial, oh, this becomes war. Total war. And what about Kat and Martin? Let's talk about them. Because I actually think they've accepted their parents' divorce. I do. But if they saw a real chance at Ted and Nicole reuniting, I think they'd support it. How could they not? That's the fantasy, right? The broken family restored, the old love revived, the impossible becoming possible. But what if that fantasy destroys Shanice? What then? Who pays the price for that dream? That's where this gets morally messy. Because this isn't just romance. It's emotional collateral damage. And I keep coming back to Shanice because Shanice is the one I fear gets wounded most. She has tried to be patient, is strong, understanding, but strong women still break. And what happens if she finally says enough? What happens if Shanice walks away? What if this romantic misunderstanding becomes the final straw? Would Ted finally realize what he's losing? Or would he run back to Nicole? Tell me that isn't terrifying, because I can see it. One shocking confrontation, Shanice versus Ted. No more excuses. No more you misunderstood. No more emotional ambiguity. Just truth. Raw and brutal. And maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, because right now, everything is too polite, too unresolved, too dangerous. Somebody has to blow this up. And honestly, I think it may be Shanice. And if she does, I will cheer, because Ted needs consequences. He does. I said what I said. Shanice versus Nicole. Now this battle may be quiet, subtle, unspoken, but it's there. And it's powerful, not because these women are enemies, but because Ted's indecision puts them in opposition. That is tragic, because neither woman should have to compete for clarity. Yet here we are. And I keep wondering, is the line between peaceful co-parenting and rekindled marriage thinner than anyone admits? I think yes, dangerously thin, and that possibility hangs over everything. Every glance between Ted and Nicole, every shared memory, every family moment, every nostalgic trigger, all of it loaded, all of it volatile, one spark, that's all it takes. And Martin and Kat may have unknowingly created that spark, which is why I say, again, this anniversary setup was not harmless. It may have been the turning point. The turning point. And while all this emotional chaos is exploding, Carlton is trying to pull Nicole away from that anniversary orbit, trying to redirect her, trying to claim space, trying to matter. And he may be losing. That hurts. Because Carlton feels sincere, but then Kiao re-enters. Back in the race, back in the hunt, and suddenly Nicole is the prize in another battlefield. How insane is this becoming? Everyone wants something. No one is fully honest, and nobody is safe. This is sup. But I also think there's something deeper happening, something hidden. Because what if this is not really about Ted choosing Nicole or Shanice? What if it's about exposing who Ted actually is? Think about that. Maybe this triangle isn't romantic suspense. Maybe it's character judgment. Who is Ted when forced to choose? Coward? Lover? Manipulator? Redeemed man? We're about to find out. And I'm nervous because I don't trust his instincts right now. Not at all. And if Ted tries to keep both emotional doors open, I swear that will be the ultimate betrayal. Because indecision can be cruelty. People forget that. Not choosing is also choosing, and it wounds. I need Shanice to demand more. I need Nicole to stop running from herself. I need Ted to stop floating. And I need somebody to tell the truth. Because this emotional war cannot continue without casualties. And let me say something controversial. What if Ted and Nicole do reunite? What then? Would it be romantic or tragic? Would it be healing or repetition? Because sometimes people don't return to lost love because it's destiny, but because they haven't learned how to let go. That is a massive difference. And I don't know which one this is. Do you? That uncertainty is killing me because I can feel a storm coming. I can feel betrayal around the corner. I can feel some massive emotional explosion building. Maybe Shanice walks in. Maybe Ted confesses feelings. Maybe Nicole chooses wrong. Maybe Carlton snaps. Maybe Kial reveals another layer. Something is coming. I feel it, and when it hits, everything changes. Because right now, all these storylines feel connected. Not random. Connected. Ted's confusion, Nicole's divided heart, Shanice's suspicion, Carlton's longing, Kial's return, Martin and Kat's hope. It all feels like pieces moving toward one detonation. And when soap starts moving chess pieces like this, a bomb is about to go off, I lie for this, but I'm also panicking because emotionally, this is brutal. I want justice for Shanice. I want honesty from Ted. I want Nicole to wake up before she breaks herself. I want Carlton to stop getting sidelined. And I need Kial to reveal what game he's really playing. Because don't tell me he doesn't have secrets. I'm not buying it. There's more here. There has to be. And what happens when those secrets surface? What happens when hidden motives collide with unresolved love? That's not drama anymore. That's annihilation. This is why I keep saying everything just changed. And if you think this anniversary storyline was just sentimental filler, no. Watch again. That was a trigger. That was set up. That was emotional warfare disguised as nostalgia. Brilliant, cruel, explosive. And I am obsessed because whether Ted runs back to Nicole or fights for Shanice or loses both, the fallout will be savage. And I'm not prepared. But I'm watching every second because this is why we watch. For the betrayals, for the impossible choices, for the chaos, for the emotional bloodshed, for those moments when love turns into war. And we are there now, without question. So now I have to ask, does Shanice finally walk? Does Ted choose a side? Does Nicole self-destruct? Does Carlton lose her? Does Kial become a threat nobody saw coming? Or does the impossible happen? Does Ted and Nicole rise from ashes? And if they do, what gets destroyed to make that happen? That is the question haunting me. And until we get answers, I am calling it, this is the beginning of a romantic civil war. And nobody gets out untouched. Mark my words. Something brutal is coming. Something shocking. Something that could split every relationship on this canvas. And when it happens, I'll be here screaming about every second of it because I am not over Ted. I am not over Nicole. I am terrified for Shanice, and I do not trust this piece. Not for 1 second. It feels too fragile, too calm, too quiet. And in soap operas, quiet means the explosion is next. So buckle up, because love just became a battlefield, and the war has only begun. Don't miss what happens next. Because when this emotional war erupts, nothing, and I mean nothing, will ever be the same again.